Following amendment, clerk read the amendment.
Amendment by Joe Johnson of Harris.
The chair recognizes Mr. Johnson to explain the amendment. You've been recognized.
Members, this bill amendment simply talks about Joe as the author has mentioned, Joe, the survivor of the 1836 Alamo, and what Joe and many others that were there at the Alamo participated and how they were instrumental in helping during the Battle of the Alamo. This is acceptable to the author.
Mr. Wally, for what purpose?
Representative Johnson, you have just a few questions.
Gentlemen, you have for questions.
Representative Johnson, what does your amendment do? I'm sorry, I'm trying to...
Does the gentleman yield for questions?
Yes.
He yields.
It simply just talks about the role of Joe and several other slaves that were at the Alamo that participated in the battle and were very instrumental in defending the Alamo.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Johnson of Harris sent an amendment. The amendment is acceptable to the author. Objecting to the opposite amendment. Chair hears none. The amendment is adopted. Following amendment, clerk read the amendment.
Amendment by Joe Johnson of Harris.
The chair recognizes Mr. Johnson of Harris to explain the amendment.
Thank you. This next amendment is simply talking about the role that slavery had in the 1836 Battle of the Alamo. This is acceptable to the author.
Mr. Johnson sends an amendment. The amendment is acceptable to the author's objection to the opposite amendment. Chair hears none. The amendment is adopted. Following amendment, clerk read the amendment.
Amendment by Leach.
The chair recognizes Mr. Leach to explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, like you, when I stand on this floor every morning and put my hand over my heart and recite the pledge to the United States of America, I mean it. I'm a proud American, and I'm also a proud Texan, and this amendment will ensure that when the over 3 million visitors annually from all over the world
Mr. Bernal, for what purpose?
Mr. Speaker, this gentleman yield.
Gentleman yield.
Yes.
Representative Leach, you recognize that the Alamo complex includes a museum, right?
Yes.
And it's full of artifacts and documents and history curated by world-renowned historians and so forth, correct?
Yes.
Do you think that the content of your amendment would not reveal itself in the museum but for what you've suggested and proposed now?
I believe that this legislature, via this bill, and I do appreciate Representative Biedermann's fierce commitment, not just this session, but really over the years, members, in protecting and preserving the Alamo complex and that sacred battleground. But I believe that this amendment makes very clear that it's the intent of this legislature that we not only maintain, but that we recommit ourselves to the promise of America, recognizing the unique role that Texas has in the future of this country, and we're mandating that the General Land Office highlight that in displays and exhibits at the Alamo complex.
Do you think that there's any fear that that would not happen? Do you think that this amendment does anything new that wouldn't have happened otherwise?
I think it makes very clear what the intent of this legislature is. I think we're speaking by way of this amendment on this issue. And that's why I've written the amendment, and that's why I hope that you'll support it.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, does the gentleman yield?
The gentleman yields
Yes,
for
I do.
questions. The gentleman yields.
Thank you. Representative Biedermann,
Yes.
do you represent the Alamo?
The GLO represents the Alamo for the state of Texas. Yes.
Are you the representative in whose district the Alamo is found?
No, I know, but you are the representative for that area. Yes, you are, not myself.
I am. Thank you for that. Also, is this your first bill?
Yes, it is this session. Yes.
All right.
I know it's kind of different being up here. So
Congratulations.
Thank you for
Here you are.
asking.
Look, just for legislative intent, I wanted to go to a section of your bill that you and I had discussed previously.
Yes,
In your bill, you've got 4 enumerated subject areas, and right above that is the phrase "focus on."
that's correct. And we talked about that.
We did, and so for the purpose of legislative intent, so we understand, focus on does not mean limited to. Is that correct?
That's correct. And I said that in my earlier statements, but we talked about that, and focus does
And so-
not mean limited.
And so, for example, and I don't have this as an amendment. I'm not suggesting that we do it this minute. But for example, if part of the conversation you find there would be the role that the Alamo played in the development and establishment of the city of San Antonio from its founding all the way to now, that would still be permitted under your bill. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, Mr.
That happened on that battlefield.
And if that's what they're doing and that's their preeminent goal, why do we even need this? Or is this some sort of springboard because you maybe want to run for commissioner, land commissioner?
Well, I would say
I
the way
think, I
the
think
bill,
we know.
The chair recognizes Mr. Metcalf for an announcement.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, we all need to thank Chairman Guerin for hosting us tonight for Railhead Barbecue. Yes.